Hey, welcome back to Time with Steel Garage. If you're just joining us, we got a 1984 Z28 Camaro here that's going to be my daughter's car. And it wasn't going to get touched for a long time, but then Holly surprised me with a whole bunch of cool parts, including a Holly Sniper 2. And I decided if we're going to build it, let's build it right. So up until this point, all we've really done is tear it apart, look for parts, get rid of junk parts. And really today, we're at the point of improving this car finally. So as you look at the body right now, the two doors are going to go away, but I'm going to leave the doors on while we weld the subframe connectors in. I've got the front frame and the rear frame supported by jack stands. It's level. And I've got Detroit Speed and Engineering's subframe kit, which is pretty awesome. So I ordered that and the much controversial fuel trap door from Detroit Speed. But you can see here everything that comes in the kit, to include race harness seatbelt mounts that get welded in. But these are laser cut box tubing. They're even labeled left and right. And they essentially tie the front and rear subframes together on the car, making it a full frame car. Now on these pinch weld unibody chassis, when they've been road hard and put away wet, they start to crack at the doors. All the pinch welds are blown apart underneath. This thing's jumped curbs and who knows what else. So what these are going to do is not only tie the front and rear subframes together, but they're going to allow us to weld the pinch welds all the way down the car and put some structure back into the car. And they're going to give us a mounting point for race harnesses. They're awesome. So it's going to basically make this car great again and give it some structure. Now, this is my daughter's car. I want it to be strong. I don't want it to crumple up like a beer can. So we're going to get to it. Welcome to In the Car. Now, the first thing we're going to do is read these instructions, which is the scariest part. And basically, it wants us to measure 5 inches back from the front seat mount and 1 inch forward of the front rocker support bracket. And 1.5 inches out, we're going to connect those two lines and we're going to cut that all out. More of the floor gets cut out on the driver's side, but on the passenger side, it's pretty simple. I'm going to try to be precise, but you know, worst case Ontario, we just booger weld everything back together. I got a machinist ruler here because it's flexible. The goal here is to make it easy to see with the cutoff wheel. Measure like 354 times, cut once. This seatbelt mount's got to go, so let's get to it. The first cut is the deepest, or something like that. Can't go back now. Alright, well, the next step is going to be cleaning up around all this area so that I have a clean metal surface to weld to the subframe connector. I've already kind of gotten underneath and straightened the pinch welds down because they were smashed up a little bit, but I still have some work to do there. And I got a little over jealous in a few spots with the cutoff wheel that I'll have to spot weld up later. But like I said, I'm going to get above and underneath and try to get clean metal everywhere that subframe connector is going to touch. Time to try to tap this bad boy in here. The thicker side of the subframe connector slit needs to go on the bottom. This says right on it. All right, I'm going to go underneath. You guys stay up here. I'm going to tap this bad boy in place. I've already done a bunch of cleaning, but I'm going to have to do significantly more cleaning before we actually get to welding. Well, when you put this bad boy under here, you really see how jacked up the pinch welds are. You guys tell me how far I gotta go, because I can't see nothing. Just a wee bit more. All right, well, Ladies and gentlemen, the first subframe connector is in. You know what this is. Alrighty then. Well, I cut a little bit too much out here. Actually, we can massage that floor pan down to meet. Perfect. Well, I suppose you guys want to see what this looks like, huh? Follow me down the yellow brick road. Alright, so I've hammered this connector in, and you can see I got the cut pretty well straight here. I had to massage this down a little bit. I got the cut perfect on the back. Little extra material here I'm gonna need to cut off, but I just chose to beat it in submission, you know. But the connector does touch the back, so that's in there. I'll go underneath here, and you can see I dented it a little bit trying to get in position, but it sits up against the floor here, all the way down. And you can see that in the back here, I need to hammer that up a little bit. But there's a plate that's gonna go between here and tie into this box right here. I need to clean this up more. And then the same thing up here, there's a big plate that's gonna tie in here that I need to clean up more, obviously. But you can see this is where the main front subframe is, and here's where this box tubing is. So these are gonna tie together via this box, okay? And then in the back, the rear subframe, this is gonna tie in here. So essentially, once we get both sides done, the whole car is gonna be a full frame car. Now, this is where you can see just how bad pinch welds have been destroyed from the factory. So first of all, they're blown out here, like right here. This stuff is gonna get welded to this. So I'm gonna have to pull it tight, and then we're gonna stitch weld the entire car and fill these back up. So as you can see how much integrity this is gonna put back into the car, because I would say from where the passenger sits forward, pinch weld's completely blown out, separated, crushed. Yeah, so you could say this was much needed. All right, I got the MIG out. I've got the connector seated up against the floor, front and rear. I've got it clamped in the front and rear. And well, I want to go ahead and just get a couple of spot welds up top here so the connector doesn't move around and settle when I'm down there trying to pull the pinch welds together. So I've got it pushed up against the floor. I'm going to lay a couple spot welds down, and that'll keep it from getting pulled too much. Enough yapping, I'm going to get to welding here. Alright, well, I got the rear doubler plate spot welded to the actual main beam itself, so because I still gotta clean up these pinch welds a little bit back here, it's gonna pull that in a little tighter, but it ain't gonna move on this beam, so that's hanging there. And same thing with the front box support here, doubler plate, whatever you want to call it. I've got that tacked in where it's not going to move. I still got to work on the back a little bit, and I got to get some bigger C-clamp pliers to clean up all these pinch welds. Once I can do that, I'm going to spot weld everything in and then completely stitch weld the entire assembly. Definitely taking longer than I expected, but pretty much all the components are at least spot welded on, except for the closing plate that covers this part here. Once I'm done, that'll be the last thing I put on. It's just a little L bracket that boxes this in. I'll have to move that out of the way. But yeah, I mean, just look down that pinch weld. This is definitely a worthy investment. Making Camaros great again. Alright, I got a little carried away with the work and I forgot to record. But the passenger side is done. And I know what you're thinking. Calm down. Calm down. We have an entire other side of the car to do, so you're gonna know how to do it before we're done, okay? But anyhow, 5-point harness, seatbelt mount that comes with the kit is welded in. The top of the subframe connector is all stitched into the body. And look at this. I haven't even rebuilt the hinges on this door yet, and it already closes better, to let you know how much integrity is back in the car. Now, this is the side that the pinch welds were just destroyed. And if you look at it now, the pinch welds are straight. That was a lot of work. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is all snap, crackle, pop, so prepare yourself for a lot of fun. We've got the front plate that connects the subframe connector to the frame. Got the closing plate on the front of the connector welded in. And then if you come all the way down here, we've got the rear plate that connects the rear subframe to the subframe connector. So we've essentially boxed this frame on this side. And lessons learned, obviously you want clean welds, acetone, clean metal's your friend. I had 30.35 wire on the MIG, and I think on the other side I'm gonna drop down to 0.30. I know a lot of sheet metal guys use 23. But because the subframe connector is 14 gauge, I'm gonna try 0.30. But front plate, rear plate, seatbelt mount, and the doubler that goes in the front. Big thing to remember with these seatbelt mounts is the tang paces forward. And it's really simple as far as locating the seatbelt mount. When you take the old seatbelt out, just make yourself your Sharpie mark on the seam here so that you can line this thing up later, which is exactly what I did on the other side. Now, the big difference between the driver's side versus the passenger side is we're cutting out a lot more metal. So essentially you're gonna start at the rear rocker seam and you're gonna come out 1 inch, and we're gonna measure 1.5 inches out from the rocker. That's gonna be the start of our line. Then we're gonna go 44 3/8 all the way down, which will more than likely essentially line up with this seam here, and we're gonna cut all of this out. 1.5 inches from the rocker all the way down. I have to drill out the spot welds on the front seat cross member because this piece is going to get cut out. And then it's essentially the same process. The only difference on this side is the doubler plate that goes on the top. And since you skipped all that on this side, don't worry, I'm going to show you how to do it on this side. But we got to try to keep this video not 1.5 hours long. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, I'm going to mark out the floor and get ready to cut that out. And we'll fast forward in time to this being cut out because you don't need to see that again. You know what I'm saying? You know what I am saying? All right, we've time traveled. My door even fell off. There's metal on the floor, subframe connector on the floor. There's debris all in the car. But here you can see what I was talking about. See my foot? Check it out. 44 3/8 inches, 1 inch forward to the rocker support. And pretty much stops right at the seam at the floor pan there. So yeah, I think I'm gonna call it for tonight and pick up tomorrow. I need to get some my sanding discs are shot and I need to clean this up better before I put that subframe connector in. I also got to clean the coating off the subframe connector itself before we put this all together. It'll make welding it up much nicer. Alright, welcome back. So I've spent a lot of time cleaning this and straightening it out. I also took the time to go ahead and clean the subframe connector itself. So now I'm going to go ahead and hammer it up into position. You know, I got to show you that live action. So I'm going to get my big ass hammer, put me safety glasses on, try to get this thing up in the car. Sorry if you hear me breathing, I'm fat and out of shape. Oh yeah. Under the car we go. Sick. All right, is it all the way back? No, it is not. Needs to come back a little bit more. But so far the fitment looks pretty good. Okay. Yeah, buddy. Ah! Yep. Yippers. Yippers. We all the way up in here? We are. I gotta take the front doubler plate per the instructions and see if it fits, because if it doesn't fit, it's not all the way back. It does fit. I need to clamp this connector to get it to level out. It's kind of leaning outward. So it looks like the fitment is pretty good, but you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but the connector's kind of sitting like this, angled towards the outside of the car. So we're gonna go underneath and clamp it along the bottom. And you can see that kind of shows it right there. You see how it's crooked? So we want this connector to be straight up and down. So the next step is to get underneath the car and clamp it in place. All right, well, for some reason I hit record and it didn't record. I'm just doing great on this video, but anyhow, I went ahead and got some spot welds along this bottom track here because, wouldn't you know it, 75-25 is down to like 20 psi, so never fails. I will say I switched out to 30 thousandths consumables and wire, and I like the way it's welding way better for sure already. Probably don't want to look up my nose, but super happy with the way the 30 thousandths is welding, and I probably just needed to change my consumables. And I learned my lesson on this side. I spent a lot more time cleaning up the metal because it's gonna weld dirty no matter what you do. It's 40 years old, but anyhow, the cut wasn't as clean on this side. I did measure it, but I think just because you cut so much material out, it just wants to pull away. So we can just push the floor pan into the steel and weld it. It'll be fine. You definitely want to mock up your pieces, and you definitely want to C-clamp the bottom channel and get the bottom spot welded first on this side, because there's such a lack of material here. The connector wants to sit crooked, so you pull it tight on the bottom, it pulls it straight. So I'm going to go ahead and get some more spot welds in the top here, and basically before I run out of gas, I'm going to just try to get the main bar here, the main subframe connector, stitch welded in a decent amount of spots on the top and the bottom, so I don't need the C-clamps down there anymore. Then I'll go ahead and spot weld all the other pieces in. Also, don't forget, mark your seatbelt where you're gonna put that, because it's really not that hard, and I know you guys are smart and you're not gonna screw it up. But it literally just sits there like that. Super easy. So anyways, I'm gonna get to welding. I'll be back with an update. Oh man, I'll tell you what, 3,000ths wire, I'm loving the 3000. That little change has made welding this so much easier, and the product's better. And this is a lot of welding. You get better as you go, but as anybody will tell you, it is a perishable skill unless you do it for a living. But anyhow, things are going well. I've got the entire upper portion stitch welded at least every inch. I'm gonna go back underneath and stitch weld that the same way. And once I get to that point, and I'm confident that the subframe connector is holding itself in firmly everywhere it needs to be, I'll go ahead and pull the clamps off, and then I'll bring you guys back to show you tacking up the front and rear box plates and the front upper doubler. Stay with me! All right, well, I'm out of gas. I mean, I'm never out of gas per se, but I'm definitely out of welding gas. But you can see I had enough gas to get the top side of the subframe connector completely welded in. And welds are way better on this side. It's hard to believe that little wire change made that much of a difference, but welding quite a bit easier. I spent some time doing mock-up with the plates. I had to beat the front doubler, or the front box plate that goes underneath, because my frame has been smacked and has dents in it and stuff. So every one of these cars is going to be a little bit different. So back plate fits perfectly. Did some mock-up with a seatbelt here. Gonna have to massage that a little bit more, but car's got structure back welding in it, so I'm happy. Once I get some new gas, I'll bring you guys back and we'll tack all these doublers and box plates and seatbelt mount in. I'll finish weld everything, and then you can stick a fork in this one because it's done. At least this step of the project's done anyhow. But I'm out of beer and I'm out of welding gas, so I'll see you tomorrow. What's up? Welcome back. We got gas. I went ahead and I've already tacked in my upper, the box plate, doubler plate, whatever you want to call it, and I've prepped the bottom, and then it's just all finish welding after that. Well, no, we'll have to put the seatbelt mount in too, but you'll see. Just watch. I beat this thing into submission the best I could get it to fit, so it's kind of a compromise, but we'll make it work. The front plate's tacked in. Let's go ahead and get the back plate tacked in now. All right, well, we'll call that tacked in. All right, I got my seatbelt mount here. It's the last thing to weld in. I had to modify it a little bit and cut this top tang off to get it to fit right. And I had to massage the floor pan, or the side of this rocker a little bit, but it's ready to tack in. And if I haven't told you this before, amateur welders like me, acetone is your friend. Get yourself one of these plastic bottles that keeps it from evaporating, and clean every surface with it before you weld. It's awesome. And tack this bad boy in place. All right, well, we are done welding. Seatbelt mounts in. I gotta grind some slag off here. On this side, I decided to stitch weld all the way around the outside. I think I'm gonna go back over to that one over there and do the same. Front doubler is welded in. That's welded in. And that bad boy there is welded in. So really, I might go down here and do a little bit more welding on the pinch weld. But next thing is to grind off my terrible welds, make them look prettier, and throw a coat of paint on here. We are done, finally, but it turned out pretty sick. Look at that. Yeah, buddy. Get you underneath, get you. That was my foot. Look at the pinch welds straight all the way down. There we go. So, I can honestly say that this is an awesome product. It fit almost ready to go. I had to make just a few little tweaks to it, but I mean, I feel like this thing's a battle tank now, and I'm not even done with chassis mods, so definitely keep up with this project, because I've got some more sick Detroit Speed parts coming. And if you don't know who Detroit Speed is, that's them right there, Detroit Speed Engineering. And you can see the other side. So, like I said, I'm gonna go back over there and stitch weld around the outside of that seatbelt mount, and I'm gonna go underneath and do a little bit more welding on that side. But for the most part, this is done. We got some work to do back there. And anyways, if you're out there and you're thinking about doing this to your third gen, without a doubt, I think this is the best kit on the market. I wouldn't even look at anything else. I did this whole job with a, look at how trash this shop is. Man, I gotta clean this up. But I did this entire job with a Miller 211 that my family got me like 6, 7, 8 years old at this point. And 75-25 on the gas. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Coming up, we're gonna put the motor together with the Holley Sniper 2 on it. We got more chassis mods to do to this thing. There's a lot of awesome stuff coming. And don't forget, I know there's a lot of you out there like, where is the Mercedes? It's here. I got a lot of stuff going on. It's that time of year, you know what I mean? So thanks for tuning in. Please like, please comment, please subscribe, share with your friends, tell people. I really appreciate all the support. We'll see you next time.